Good morning, everybody. Great to see you here today. One quick announcement, just a reminder, next week, some of you may have seen it in the newsletter, but we'll be having a reception for Pastor Stephanie. As she kind of closed out her ministry here, just an opportunity to say thank you and appreciate her. So that'll be between the two services. So if you normally come to this service, just plan to stay a few minutes later. It'll be in the lobby. And so if you want to bring a card or some kind of gift of appreciation, I'm sure she won't say no. So that'll be next Sunday, April 26th, from like 10:15 to 11. All right, well, we are continuing in the series that Alan began for us last week, the Bible that Jesus read. And it's just a way to look at some of the very important stories, accounts of the Old Testament that really influence our theology as Christians, but it would have even influenced Jesus growing up as a Jewish young man in the first century. And so today we jump over a few chapters from where Alan finished off last week in Genesis 3. We're going to go over a little further in Genesis to Genesis chapter 12 and the story of Abram. As we start that, I want to read a few verses out of Genesis, actually beginning a few verses in chapter 11 and then 12, 1 through 4. So 11, 31, and 32, and then 12, 1 through 4. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, son of Harran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Harran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Harran. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household, to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Harran. Now let me ask you this question, and I probably know the answer. Have you ever had to start over? Some of you have a Florida testimony, right? You packed up everything and you said, "That's it, I'm retiring, I'm going to Florida." Others of you are still working and you're like, "I'm not waiting till I'm retiring, I'm going to Florida." And so you're here now. And some, apparently God's favorites, were born here. We don't really like you, but we are praying about our attitude. But seriously, whether you were forced or chosen, starting over is hard. We've all had to start over a few times. I know one of the hardest seasons of starting over was when we first moved to Florida. And we came in 2012, and obviously church transition is difficult enough, but literally within a year of us being here, our house burnt down. And I remember this was in August that the house burnt down right before the kids started school. We had 3 in school at that point. And I remember walking into the house one day in a fall in October of that 2013, opened up the front door, and everything was gone. There was no furniture, there were no cabinets, no walls. And at that moment, this grand theological insight hit me. This is bad. I know, years of my parents' college money at work in that moment. But the weight of it kind of crashed in. The loss, the rebuild, the uncertainty, the difficulty. And things felt as low as they could go. But the thing that kept me going, and probably keeps you going when you're starting over and it gets hard, is the hope that it will get better. Because hope is more than a feeling. It's a force. It's this quiet conviction that your current reality is not your final reality. It's what keeps a person taking one more step when everything in them wants to quit. When the strength is low and everything around is weighing in. It is hope that steps in and says, no, quit tomorrow, but not today. Because hope is powerful. People can endure incredible pain, loss, hardship with hope. A patient fighting through aggressive treatment can withstand the side effects of nausea, exhaustion, uncertainty if there's hope. A single parent can work 2 jobs with the hope that their kids can have a better life. A student can grind out years of studying and pushing forward in hopes that one day they will get paid. Viktor Frankl, famous, the Jewish man who survived Nazi concentration camps in Man's Search for Meaning, famous book, made this profound observation that those who lose hope often do not survive. But those who have even the smallest glimmer of hope can endure the unthinkable. Well, when you come to Abram's story in chapter 2, the account of the call of Abram, things looked pretty dismal. If you just scan a few chapters from chapter 3 of the fall up to the end of chapter 11, there's not a lot of good news happening. It's a pretty dismal state on planet Earth. Everything is broken. In chapter 6, humanity is spiraling so far from God that the text says that every thought of every person was evil all the time. And it broke God's heart. By chapter 9, there's a flood. By chapter 11, there's the Tower of Babel, confusion, division, scattering. And if you stop there, you would think the story is going to just continue to spiral into destruction. But then chapter 12 comes. And it doesn't seem like it at first. Unless you know the whole story, it seems fairly non-essential. But it is a beginning. It is an origin. It's a start. And it's not just a start. It's a starting over. The story is poised to begin again. And maybe today, in your life, there may be a situation or a circumstance or a point in your life that may feel dead and done and over. Maybe it feels scattered and broken and you're ashamed of it and you missed your chance. I want you to hear me before we go any farther. God gives second chances. He doesn't leave you in the rubble. You don't have to carry yesterday into tomorrow. So I want to encourage you to take a breath. Grab hope and start over. Because that is exactly what God does with Abram in chapter 12, this new beginning. God comes, and Abram isn't looking for God. God came looking for Abram. And he says to Abram, leave your country, leave your people, leave your father's house and go. And to the land I will show you. In other words, start over. And this isn't just about relocation, friends. This is about redemption. This is about the grand plan of God in redeeming the world, of reversing the curse that began in Genesis chapter 3. And he says to Abram, go, because God is launching a plan to bless the nations, to restore what was broken, to bring hope back into the world. And through Abram's obedience, through Abram's call, God is going to do much more than something just for Abram. He's going to bless the world. And here's what I want you to hear. And I don't want to overstate this. When God calls you into deeper obedience or into a significant season, a new place or a new job or a fresh direction, I want you to know He's usually doing it for more than just you. He's positioning you to bless others. This promise to Abram was personal, but it was not exclusive to him. God was going to bless the world through Abram. You think about it in your own life, in the things that God has done in your life, whether it's taking a new job or relocating or repositioning yourself, however, in your life. And God used it not only to bless you, but maybe to bless your family and your children and to bless others. It's never just about you. So when God is calling you to something new, don't treat it as a private upgrade. It's a redirection with ripple effects. So Abram was called out of chaos and he's drawn into the presence of God. And he's sent towards a bigger promise than he could ever have imagined. So the first thing we see is by faith, God says, get thee going. By faith. Go to the land I will show you. There are many important parts to that command that are missing. Namely, where? Just go. By faith, get going. It's interesting that when God says go, the Hebrew has a little bit more edge to it than just like, hey, when you get around to it, maybe. It's more like, get yourself up and get out. Get thee out. Get your butt moving in the modern vernacular. It's not subtle. It's not optional. God is saying, Abram, this life, this place, this version of you, it's time to move. And in case you don't understand what I'm saying, let me list a few things I want you to leave. Leave your country, leave your people, leave your father's house, leave your past, leave everything that has defined you. I want you to walk away from it. And Abram is no fool. He knows what is missing, as I've already said, and that is namely where. And God says to that question, I will show you. Have you ever noticed that is precisely how God usually works? We often know what God wants to call us from, and we have no idea what he's calling us to. Like, I know I'm supposed to leave this. I know I'm supposed to turn. I know I'm supposed to do this. I have no idea where it's going. I just know I can't stay here and I can't stay back there. By faith. That's where the faith kicks in. Trust. So what is God inviting Abram into? Relationship. Trust me. Follow me. Abram gets no map. He gets no preview, gets no 5-year plan, gets no visible outcome, just a trust me. That is usually how it works with us. We hear God say, you got to leave this relationship. You got to leave this situation. You got to leave this job. You got to leave this place. You got to leave this pattern. You got to step away from it. You got to walk out of your comfort zone. You're like, okay, God, I hear it. I got it. I see you're calling me out of it. I feel it. I know it. I know I can't stay here. I got that. But could you give me just a glimpse of what's next? Just anything? And God says, no. I'll give you something better than a glimpse. I'll give you my presence. Because if God showed you everything up front, and I'm sure it's true with Abram, you might just plan to stay right where you are. And that's the tension of walking with God. We don't get certainty. We get guidance. You don't get the whole blueprint. You get the next step. And that's trusting God. That's believing God. That's saying yes when he calls. And to really get the full weight of this moment, it's interesting to know what Abram's coming from. Like they're in Harran. Harran is a advanced city. It's a city of culture and comfort and opportunity and security. It's comfortable. There's a reason that Terah, when he was leading his family from Ur towards Canaan, just stopped over at Harran and said, "No, I think this will work. This will work right here." And he camped out there because it had a lot going for it. It was sophisticated, influential, successful. but it was also spiritually compromised. It was a center of idol worship, devoted to false gods. In fact, the book of Joshua tells us that Abram's family served other gods. Let's just say, so when Abram's called, he wasn't a church kid. Abram didn't grow up in the church. He didn't come from a heritage of faith. There were no scriptures on the shelf. There were no spiritual mentors guiding him, no legacy pushing him towards Yahweh. He's surrounded by idolatry. He's shaped by it. He's immersed by it. He's comfortable in it. And that's what makes this so incredibly powerful. Because God doesn't call a man from a place of spiritual strength. He calls him from a place of spiritual darkness. And we see that when God, we get this backstory that not only are they in Harran, they're in a place of comfort, but Abram is married to Sarai, and Sarai is barren. And so do you see, this is a lonely road he's about to take. Just him and Sarai, no chance of any descendants, no children, no descendants. It's just them being called by God to go. Everything about Abram's story says this is not the family God would choose to change the world. God doesn't work according to human wisdom. And Abram had no idea what God had in store for him down the road. And often when God calls us to do something, it seems illogical. And here's where it gets personal, man. When God calls you out of where you've been into what he has for you, do not expect everyone to understand it or like it. Especially when your friends and those family members that don't share your faith, they will think you have lost your ever-loving mind. You're leaving this for what? You're giving up security for a promise? You're stepping away from what's comfortable for something you can't even see? But what about this? But what if that? What are you doing? And that tension is real because all of us have a little bit of people pleaser in us. And sometimes it's that pull to stay comfortable, that the chain of Harran that grips us. We are comfortable, and it isn't nice, not a bad place. It's okay. We can make it work. We can figure things out. But it's not where you belong. And I want you to know this, man. This is a lesson from Abram and his family. Partial obedience will keep you in Harran and out of the promised land. At some point, every person who follows God has to decide, will I be more shaped by the voices around me, by the voice of God that has spoken to me? And so when everyone calls you crazy, when everyone questions your decision, now I'm not saying don't talk to spiritual godly advisors. I'm not saying that. There's a lot of wisdom in godly counsel. But when you've done that, and still there are people that don't share your faith, don't share your relationship with God, who think your question is crazy, and they question your decision, they don't understand your obedience, go anyway. Go when it's uncomfortable. Go when it's unclear. Go when it costs you something. Because the greatest moves God will do in your life are not done by a vote of popular opinion. They're done when you hear the voice of God and you say yes. And you'll discover that what you leave behind in and in Harran was nothing compared to what God has waiting for you in his promise. So there's something that's a little even more interesting. So Abram's family settles in Harran. It's sort of like, that's not where they were called to, right? They were called out of to Canaan. But they settled in Harran. They settled there. How many of us just settle It's not where we're supposed to be. It's not all we've been called to do. It's not all what God is asking of us, but we just settle there. Life is full, schedules are busy. Let's just camp out there. Same routine, same pattern, same emptiness. And the scary part is Harran is seductive. You can stay there. God's call is always out of barrenness into life. So in faith, Abram gets going. Number 2, in love, God will be with you. This reminds me of John 15, where Jesus, talking to the disciples, says, abide in me. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. To abide is to remain, to stay, to dwell, to make your home in his presence. It's not occasional contact. It's constant, continual connection. And that is exactly the kind of relationship that Abram is invited to. God doesn't call Abram ultimately to a place. He calls him into a relationship. With those words, I will show you. It's an invitation in relationship with me. I will disclose to you at the proper times. As we are in relationship, I will disclose to you where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to give you a map. I'm going to give you myself, and I'm going to walk with you. So abide in me. Walk with me. And so God becomes Abram's guide, as Jesus is our guide, as we abide in him. And his words abide in us, remain in us. We bear fruit. One of the important lessons to learn in all of Scripture is that the promise of God to Abram and the covenant promise was not just land. The promise was God. God is the promise. What do you get? God. That's what you get. When you're walking with God, you can walk in uncertainty. You don't have to know all the answers when you're walking with God. There's actually a great peace in that. I don't have to know every answer. I don't have to know every twist and turn. I just know that I am with God. I'm in the center of his will. I'm walking with him, and he will show me what to do when it's time. That's what Jesus is getting at in John 15. I'm the vine. You are the branches. Remain in me, and you will be just fine. We experience the fullness of the love of God in a greater measure when we step into that place of obedience. You know, when we're safe, when everything is controlled, when life is predictable, we tend to rely on ourselves. But when you step out on faith and you feel stretched, when you're a little uncomfortable, that's when abiding becomes real. Because you know you need him. So Abraham learned some things, and I think we learned some things from obedience and abiding in Christ and allowing him to guide us when we obey him. Number one, we discover that the gain is far greater than the losses. When we step out and follow him, we find that the gains are far greater than everything we left behind. Now, I want you to know that what usually happens when you follow the Lord and you follow him in obedience in any circumstance, it usually is like I think of it like if you could visualize it like a graph. So when you first follow God, there's a certain amount of excitement. I'm doing what God wants me to do, and it's straight up, yeah, excitement. And then it starts to get hard. And then it starts to go down, right? You're like, oh man, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. And then at some point, actually, your low point is lower than where you started. Right? It's the children of Israel in Exodus. We were better off at Pharaoh's house. We were better off as slaves. Why did I do this again? I'm down here. Maybe it was just the pizza and not God. But what you can't see is the humongous, massive upside. If you keep going, you keep going. And you discover the gain is much greater even than the loss. Number two, the favor of God flows from obedience to God. God says, I will bless you. This isn't just material, it's relational. It's not just things and stuff and provision, it's relational. I will bless you. My smile will be upon your life. That's God's favor. Number three, the safest place. This is another thing you discover with obedience. The safest place is the center of God's will. The scariest place, the most unpredictable place, the most dangerous place is actually sitting in Harran with the deception of comfort. Being in the center of God's will. God is basically saying, Abram, I got you. Follow me. Go. I will show you where to go. I've got you. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It means I've got you. I'm going to be with you. I meet a lot of people who expect, well, listen, I hear a lot of people who expect the protection of God who are living outside the will of God. Don't blame God for your junk when you're living outside the will of God. Don't work that way. You do what you want to do, you disobey what God says to do, and then you blame God when things go bad over here when you're outside the protection of God. Anybody here? I just wanted. It got so quiet in here. Like, the protection of God flows with the direction of God, the will of God. It's like wearing a seat belt but not clicking it. It's like having an umbrella when it's raining and you're in the restaurant and it's in your car. That's what it's like trying to claim God's protection but ignoring his direction. Number four, worship is revived through obedience. What does Abram do when he gets to Canaan? Further down in the story, he builds an altar. He worships. I want to tell you, man, some people will say, like, man, we all get there, right? I mean, I have to do the same gut check with myself. You've heard people say, man, my worship just feels dry. Have you ever heard that? Maybe you're there this morning. Like, don't raise your hand. But maybe I'm talking to you. Worship just feels dry. Bible reading just feels dry. This life just feels dry. My faith just feels dry. Here's a question I want to ask you, and 9 times out of 10, it will reinvigorate your spiritual life. What big thing are you trusting God for? Not nothing. I mean, there's your problem. There's your problem. Because if you start trusting God for something big, guess what? What we did here earlier, it isn't just songs. It's communication with God. The Bible isn't just a book. It is giving you guidance and insight and wisdom, and you're discerning, you're soaking it up. And prayer isn't just something you have to do. No, I need to pray because I don't know how I'm going to get through this without God. I don't know how I'm going to walk another step without God. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring without God. So I'm in the book. I'm in worship. Man, I've never felt so close to God. So if you need to reinvigorate your life, find something to trust God big for. Number 3, in hope, we follow God toward the promise. In faith, get going. In love, God will be with you. In hope, we follow God toward the promise. We're called not just, as we said many times already, not just to a destination, but to a journey. Now, let me get real spiritual with you. I know it's church. But let me get real, spiritual with you a second. You ready? Are you ready? All of life, you're not writing it down. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All of life, everything in life, all of life is a spiritual journey toward God. Everything. Everything. So, this classroom that we're in called life, where we're learning and we're walking on this spiritual journey towards God, we're being taught how to trust Him, how to walk with Him, how to listen to Him, how to relate to Him, how to relate to others who also love Him. It's not about where we're going. It's about who He is and why we're here. All of life is a journey, a spiritual journey. You thought your move to Florida was a preference. It's a spiritual journey. This morning, you thought it was just another thing to do. There's a spiritual component happening in your life. That job change is a spiritual journey. That connection, that relationship that you made, spiritual journey. All of it, everything in life is a spiritual journey towards God. Now, maybe you've noticed, from the sermon outline, there's a correlation of these three words that also have very significant influence in the New Testament: faith, hope, and love. How many of you heard those three before? In faith, we get going. In love, we are with God. In hope, we trust the promise. There's a famous passage in 1 Corinthians 13:13. Now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But you know the last part. But the greatest of these is love. This is how this works, man. Right now in life, we live by faith. We cannot see. We're Abram. Come follow. So we can't see. We just trust God by faith. We cling to hope. We hold on to what God has promised, but has not yet fully brought to view. But one day, faith will give way to sight. You won't have to trust what you can't see, because you'll see Him face to face. And hope will give way to experience. You'll actually experience it. You won't have to hope for it. You'll be experiencing it. You won't have to wait for the promise. You'll be living in it. No more anticipation, no more longing, no more not yet. Now these three remain: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Love will abide forever. Love does not fade. Love does not get replaced. Love does not give way to anything greater. Love abides forever, because love is not just something God gives. God is love. It's a relationship. Faith, won't need it at one point. Hope, you won't need it at one point. But love will be the condition of our relationship eternally with God. It will abide forever. So the relationship, here's my point, guys. You're like, what? So what's the point? I'm glad you asked. The relationship you're building right now, the opportunities that God gives you to come and follow and learn and trust and know me, and I'll be with you and I'll guide you and I'll comfort you, and I'll be there when the turns get sharp, and I'll be with you. I want you to lean on me. I want you to understand my word, and that I love you, and that I have things to say to you. I want you to pray, and I want us to talk, and I want you to have intimacy with me. I want us to abide, because the relationship with you you're building right now is a relationship of love that will never go away. It will never go away. As you walk by faith, as you're fueled by hope, God is leading us into something greater. An everlasting, unbroken, fully realized love with an awesome, just, holy, good God. So yes, follow with faith, press on with hope, but never forget. The goal, friends, is not just to arrive somewhere at that corner office or that cul-de-sac or that church. It's never about ultimately that. The goal is to abide in someone forever. ever, and his name is Jesus. So notice what Abram does. I'm wrapping up, I promise. It's going long, and the children people will want to hurt me. So I'm going to hurry because your kids are crazy. Anyway, no. I meant to say that they're dolls. They're awesome. And they wish they had more time with them. That's what that meant to say. So how do you do this, man? How do you do this walk of faith and hope that you can't see, but you just know God said go? You do it from altar to altar. And some of those altars are, God, you did it. Some of those altars, if you follow Abram's story, are altars of repentance. God, I screwed this up. And some of them are altars of provision. God, you came through. And sometimes they're altars of recommitment. God, I'm still following. I'm still following. The answer of the call of God is never a straight line. It's just a faithful progression. Just keep moving. Just keep following. And sometimes the journey feels slow, but God is getting you there. And where's there? Not to a place. It's a little bit closer to his heart. My hunch is this is a mysterious thing when we sense God calling us to something more or something different. It's a mysterious thing. It's a very spiritual thing, right? The way I imagine this kind of miracle of God like Abram, it's miraculous. How did Abram sniff this out? How did he hear the word? He was entrenched in a pagan culture and family dynamics and all the stuff and comfort. How did he ever hear the voice of God? And maybe you're that, how did I ever hear it? I imagine it kind of like this way. It's like walking downtown Safety Harbor on a third Friday. One of the busy ones. There's lots of people. People are looking at the arts and crafts, and you are too. But mostly you're just looking at people and wow, you really wear that? Anyway, you're not judging, but you kind of are. And then suddenly you're just you get a whiff of kettle corn. It hits you. You weren't even hungry. But now you've got to have some kettle corn. And this craving isn't something that's made up. It's got your undivided attention. There you were, minding your business, when some drifting molecules of salt and butter and spice collided with a vulnerable part of your nose. And you had a real encounter. Not a mental delusion, not an emotional projection, but the real thing. And what's the effect? You go. It's a humorous, but also very accurate thing that happens with us spiritually. Going about our business, wandering around Harran, something hits us. It's the voice of God. It's the aroma of Christ that says, I've got more for you. And against all reason sometimes, an explanation, we start going. You know why Abraham is a hero in the Bible, among many reasons, but for verse 4. So Abram went. That's why. So Abram went. My prayer for you is to hear that voice of the Lord. Maybe he's calling you out of spiritual barrenness into abundant life. Maybe in your spiritual life, you've kind of stopped over. You haven't gone all the way in. It's time to go all the way in. For others, it may be something God's calling you to. Would you hear his voice? Would you lean in? And would you get going? Would you stand with me?